Hello. This video is going to be one of my more unusual ones. Nothing new there, I suppose. I've been asked recently, especially with my Learning Python series, are boot camps, crash courses, cram sessions, or whatever other words you want to use to describe an accelerated learning program really worth it? Well, yes and no. I could say yes and pitch my own Learning Python program as one of the greatest ways of going about it, and it would be a perfectly acceptable answer because there is value in that kind of an approach. Goal-oriented learning is one of the most aggressive and yet most successful learning approaches available on the market. But being the right answer in this case is not the correct answer. Equally, I could say no and talk about how stressful these kinds of programs are, the absolute hell you put yourself going through the program, trying to cram a bucket load of information into your head in as short amount of time as possible. And then there's always the fact that these courses aren't free in some cases, and they may actually end up being $2,000 or $3,000, and you don't even know if you're going to get anything out of it. So no, in that context, they're not worth it. Again, a perfectly correct and acceptable answer, but not the right answer to the question. All of the words you use to describe boot camps, crash courses, cram sessions, all fall under accelerated learning. And accelerated learning is really about the science of learning itself. See, that's something that has been lost over the years within our educational system. There is a science to learning. It's a very particular kind of science, and it's one that has a place and a role within the framework of learning that has been missed for many years. Learning is not just sit down, stick your face in a book or behind a computer and beat yourself to death. It is a consistent, methodical, logical process that derives itself around you as the key component of that learning. All of these programs are successful because of that simple fact. You. Not because of the program, not because of what they offer, not because of the teacher or the content. You are the reason why these programs succeed. Accelerated learning is a hellish nightmare beyond all reason. You're given 8 hours to a week, depending upon whatever program you've enrolled yourself in, with the hopes of learning whatever it is they are teaching you, and hoping that you have enough of what they've given you to make what you've paid worthwhile. With my Learning Python series, it's a matter of hoping you can cram as much information as I've given you into actually understanding the point of writing a trading bot as we get there. There's a lot of information. You are not going to remember it all. It just doesn't happen. It's not possible. What makes the course successful is your desire to learn, your reason to learn, the whole goal of why you want to learn. And that is what makes accelerated learning in general worthwhile. It has nothing at all to do with anything of the actual programs you are trying to learn. It could be anything from underwater basket weaving to brain surgery. It doesn't matter. All that matters is you and whether or not you want to learn. And that brings us back to the science of learning. Learning is a process. And as we've developed computers over the years, and we've developed machine learning techniques that help a computer learn and develop. We've begun to understand human learning more the same way. And even though our brains are magnificent machines that go beyond the comprehension of what we really understand, the very basic nature of who and what we are still very primitive and animalistic. And that is the point, purpose, and reason as to why these crash courses work. People that are most successful in these crash courses are able to tap into and trigger the fight or flight response. By triggering that fight response, it triggers an emotional reaction in them that helps them accelerate their learning. That is the process of which makes it possible to retain as much information as they can through these hellish courses. And they will, over time, continue to use that ability, that science, to gain more information quicker, which gives them an edge in the market. They found their reason, their goal, to trigger a response out of the brain. Even though your brain is as powerful as it is, and there's more power in the human brain than we can even begin to imagine, it still only has a limited amount of energy. So all that power is pretty much driven by a tiny little battery. And that's it. When the battery is done, the learning is done. And there is nothing that changes that. By triggering the fight or flight reaction, people have found the science of learning is really about triggering the adrenaline in the body that gives them that little extra bit to make it to the end. The tenacity, the determination, the fight of learning. It's easy to say that a goal could be you need to put food on a table, or you need to keep a roof over your head. But that doesn't work in the human brain. The human brain is much more evolved, much more complicated than such esoteric concepts. They don't become reality until you feel a hunger pain, or until you're out in the winter in a freezing cold wondering why you didn't listen and focus in whatever situation you were in to have a better life for yourself. You have to trigger that response during the learning process, not when you're in a survival process. And that is where the complications of learning become more complicated. A lot of it really starts back in the school system or the educational system, where it used to be when you hit the 10th grade, the learning part stopped. You knew how to read, how to write, how to do math. 10th, 11th, and 12th grade were focused on you being able to pay your bills, keep a roof over your head, keep food on the table, things you needed to survive. Some kind of a trade, welding, shop, carpentry, something that you could take out of the school system when you hit 18 and find some way in this world not to die on the streets. That was the principal purpose of those last 3 grades, to prepare you for the world, because the world was already to go kick your ass before you even got out. We've lost that process. We've lost the ability of the science of learning. So now people have to learn it on their own through life as they survive, which makes learning more complicated. It's often said that a free education is an underappreciated education, and that really the only education you ever remember is the education you've had to work for. Again, that falls into play of the fight or flight mechanism within our brains. If you fight for it and you want it, you'll remember it. You'll get it. It's an esoteric process by modern thinking that drives its roots from when we literally had to survive on a daily basis through hunting or foraging or other techniques. Learning is a quintessential component of the brain that really depends upon you continuing to learn to be able to learn more. All too often in my own career as a programmer and as a teacher, I've run into people who get out of high school and say, why do I need to learn this? Or why do I need to learn that? I know everything I need to know to survive in life. And they've literally turned off the mechanism of learning. They've stunted their ability to grow and develop and progress beyond a certain point in their own thinking. That is the biggest problem with our modern educational system. It doesn't promote goal-oriented learning. Now, goal-oriented learning doesn't necessarily have to be a crash course or a cram course, but it is still, to some degree, an accelerated course, because you are thinking about the end goal, the reason why you are learning, the reason why you want this particular knowledge or skill. Electricians, plumbers, carpenters, all of those are goal-oriented learning for the purpose of providing a trade. Nursing, doctors, lawyers, anything that you can go to a specialty trade school for would be considered goal-oriented learning. You're learning what you need to function for the goal, to function for the job, to be able to do whatever it is that that job entails. In the case of an electrician, you're learning to work with electricity and hopefully not get yourself killed in the process. In the case of boot camps, crash courses in programming, or my own Learning Python series, you're learning how to program for a purpose. It might be a future job. It might be wanting to learn how to trade. It might be wanting to learn how to program for something that you need to do in your own life. But either way, that goal is your reason. And without a real solid goal, a purpose you can relate to, you are not going to learn. You are not going to grasp the benefit of such an aggressive approach. Even the worst boot camp will still have successes because the people that went through it needed to learn. They needed that information. They wanted it. And that is the whole point of all of these programs. So to the point of, are they worth it? No, they are not. If you don't have the drive, if you don't have the desire, the goal to want to learn what they are teaching, you will not learn. If your life is in such chaos that you can't focus on what is going on to learn, you are not going to benefit. You must be able to sit down for however long the course is and concentrate on the content being delivered. If your mind is anywhere but on that content, you are not getting the benefit of the learning. You're not tapping in to the accelerated process of the fight or flight to grasp what is being taught. In that case, it's not worth it. You don't have to go to some convention center and pay $2,000. You could use your own phone, tablet, computer, it doesn't matter, and learn through YouTube videos and then write the programs. Try the content. That is what accelerated learning is about. Not just watching, but by doing. You cannot become a programmer by watching. You can only become a programmer by actually writing programs. By taking the content you've been given and actually going through the process of modifying it, trying to figure out why pieces work, why pieces don't work. By taking your example and breaking it, and then trying to figure out what you did wrong in the process of breaking it. That is how you learn. The instructions, for example, that I give in the video, they're meant to give you a starting point, a reference point by which you have a working example. From there, you and you alone take the next step to determine how much you learn. You could sit there and run through the entire program piece by piece, changing every little nook and cranny of it, learning what each little piece does here and there, and really come out with an exceptional amount of knowledge. Or you could sit there like a dead cockroach and do nothing, and get nothing out of the video. Accelerated learning programs only work if you work, if you want to learn. And that really is the point of learning in general. You will learn nothing if you don't want to learn. A classic example that is taught in college English classes, 101, 102, sometimes 104 classes, is a poet that for some odd reason has a fascination about the life of a fly and decides he wants to write poetry describing the life of a fly. From the standpoint of every person in the class that's ever had to take this godforsaken class, the question is always, why the hell do I care about some psychopath with a fly fetish? And that's the point. Nobody does. But for some reason, it's a core requirement, and you get to pay at least $300 to sit there and read somebody talking about the life cycle of a fly in prose. Why? And how much of it are you going to remember? None of it. In fact, you're going to go out of your way to forget it. That's the whole point. And that's where the educational system has completely and utterly failed. And that's why when people come out of college, they have worthless degrees, they can't feed them, clothe them, or keep a roof over their head. So what happened? The market stepped up. Boot camps, crash courses, cram sessions, accelerated learning programs became rampant throughout just about every major market. Trade schools really took off in a lot of ways. It became to the point that now if you want to be an electrician, a plumber, or a carpenter, you don't go to a 4-year university. You go to a trade school. Even now, for becoming a nurse, there are trade schools out there that produce better quality nurses than 4-year universities dedicated to medicine, because they don't have all the useless crap in the middle. They have what you need to get the job done. And you pay for it by the stress of getting all that crap pushed into your head as fast as they can. And then they throw you into the hospital on the job, and you get that crap constantly beat into you through repetition. And it is one of the best educations you will ever get. It will beat a 4-year education hands down any time of the year, day or night, because you are doing the one thing that is critical about accelerated learning: using it. That is why they work. That is why they are not the best way to go. You have to be willing to want to go through that living hell for the benefits that it can give you at the other side. Not everybody will. In all honesty, if 20% come out of an accelerated learning course with some level of knowledge of what they've learned, it's a good day. And that class succeeded. Many people take these courses, thinking that they're just going to get this knowledge and then go pick up a programming job. It ain't happening. Not in your wildest dreams. It might get you in the front door, but that's about as far as it's going to get. After that, what gets you the job is your willingness to continue to learn at an accelerated rate. I've spent the last 42 years of my life programming in languages I don't even remember anymore. I actually have to sit down and think about what I wrote in because, well, quite frankly, I don't remember. I very vaguely remember most of the languages that I spent writing in. For example, I started out with COBOL, RPG2, RPG3, Basic, Turbo Basic, Quick Basic, GW Basic, DOS Basic, Pascal, Oxford Pascal, Turbo Pascal, Borland Pascal, C, ANSI C, DJGPP. Let's see, what else have I worked in? Turbo C, Borland C, Lisp, Ada, MUMPS, which is a dedicated hospital language, Xtol, Synoble 4, VTOL or VTL, machine language, assembly language, and on the machine language that was 6502, 6508, 6510 chipsets, IBM machine language, or technically assembly language, back to ANSI C, where I spent 30 years working, and now Python. And I still think I forgot half of what I actually wrote in. So, in every one of those cases, I didn't get all that through college. I got that on the job. I got the situation of the boss coming in one day and saying, "We're changing languages. We're going to give you 1 week. And then you're going to be writing the new language on a new system, and you better get it right." Cram time. And that's the whole point. That's when you learn. When you want to learn. When you understand the science behind learning. It doesn't get any easier. It never does. The older you get, the more difficult learning becomes. Even if you spent a lifetime learning, it still becomes difficult as you age. And pretty soon, you end up the old person on the post, and the young crowd is in their learning circles around you with new languages that look like some kind of alien dialect. And what do? 2 choices. Figure it out or get tossed out. The world doesn't have room for people that can't learn. The job site isn't going to come to a grinding stop. It's going to keep moving with or without you. And that's the whole reason why accelerated learning is always going to be successful. Because it's a do or die situation, and for some people, that's literal. If it's your only job, you're going to figure out a way of keeping that job, especially in a market that is so high turnover rate as it is right now. So, are accelerated learning programs worth it? Yes, they are. They are the best ways you will ever learn anything. If, and only if, you really want to. And no, they are the most hellish way you can learn anything, and you're going to end up not knowing a damn thing in the end about what you learned. Because they are difficult, high stress, and high pressure. You learn what you associate with the best. Learning is actually a technique of association, and you take what you know to help you learn what you don't know. The beginning of the programming career, or learning a programming language for the first time, is an absolute bloody nightmare. It's a complete alien dialogue that just means no sense whatsoever, and it becomes the question of why in the hell do you want to talk to a damn machine to begin with? It's the reality of programming, because you never know whether or not you're going to be writing a game, writing a simple checkbook program, maybe a daily reminder for somebody to take their medicines. Maybe you'll be measuring somebody's pulse rate automatically, or you might be writing a program that maintains a heart or a lung machine for some kind of life support. You never know in the beginning where your programming is going to take you in the end. And that makes it even more complicated because programming is such a wide range of disciplines that you could start out being a game programmer and end up writing life support programs. Or you could start out in the business world like I did, writing banking and billing programs and end up teaching trading programs. You never know where you're going to end up. So when you learn, it's a matter of how do you shape your learning in your crash courses? You shape it by necessity. Where the market goes is where you go if you want to make money. That's your driving force. Survival. Fight or flight. And that is how you tap into the benefits of accelerated learning. It's not easy. It never is. But it does work consistently and profitably. And the profits of that is your actual knowledge. If you come away with any amount of knowledge whatsoever from an accelerated learning program, it succeeded. Because it's taking a whole discipline and cramming it in between your ears in the least amount of time possible. For example, I'm up to lesson 10 now on learning Python. And we've covered a lot of material. We've covered material in Python that in a conventional setting would be 3 or 4 months long at this point of a standard university course. We would be nearing the end of a programming course with what we're at right now in terms of the material content. It's a lot of material. It's hard material. But with discipline, with drive, with a goal, it's attainable. And at the end of this course, at the end of these lessons, the people that choose to take them will have enough information to be able to write a trading bot. Whether or not it's profitable is a whole different situation. But they have the knowledge they need to get there. That is the success of accelerated learning. That is also the downfall of accelerated learning. So hopefully this will help make understanding why these courses are so critical and important, and why they have to be nightmares by default. You see, when you go into an accelerated learning course, the people teaching it they know at least 75% of the people in it are going to walk away with nothing whatsoever because they don't have the drive needed. But the 25% that stick it through, that actually get something out of it, they're going to go on, they're going to continue, and they're going to use this knowledge appropriately. It really is you that decides whether or not these courses are worth it or not. It's not the content, it's not the teacher, it's not the seminar leader, it's not the information they give you, the books, the papers, the programs, the GitHubs, the repositories. None of that matters. It could be the worst, hideous individual on this planet. And if it clicks with you and you have the desire, he'll be a rock star at the end of the process because you learned something. So, when you go to look at an accelerated learning program, make sure you understand why you actually want it. A real, tangible reason. Not an esoteric one like you need to keep your job or you need to put food on the table. The brain doesn't care about that until you're starving and homeless. That's the way it is. You need something your brain can grab a hold of right now that makes sense. That is the only way you will ever trigger that learning response to maximize your ability for accelerated learning. Let me know if you have any questions. Leave them in the comments. Let me know what programs you've been through and what your experience has been with accelerated learning. I've listened to a lot of people in the past that have told me their experiences, and it's quite interesting just how different these experiences are. Until next time.